I had a lukewarm Mexican pizza sitting in my lap as I planned the then upcoming summer of 2012. I was sitting in my friend's car in the passenger seat while my friend sat in the driver's seat. We were parked in front of an abandoned Hobby Lobby. We were new friends, just getting to know each other. I asked him if he had ever had sex. He said no. He asked me the same. I paused and considered lying before telling him the truth. We were on the same boat. He asked me if I had ever smoked weed. I said I had once before, but I didn't really feel anything. Again, we were on the same boat. That's when ideas started firing off in my mind. The boring void that was the then upcoming summer of 2012 began filling with activities. This new friend of mine would be my weed buddy. We would smoke weed together. That would be our thing. That's what that means. Weed buddy. We started planning for the night after our last day of school. We were both juniors in high school, about a week after becoming seniors, and to celebrate the transition, we were going to get f***ed up on marijuana. I suggested we start in the woods. I had woods behind my neighborhood. We can go in there at night and smoke in privacy, and then emerge from the trees and chill in my new friend's car. I knew he had a car because I was sitting in it in that very moment. My new friend asked me if I knew someone who could supply the marijuana. I said maybe. I asked him if he knew anyone. He said maybe. Later that night, my friend dropped me off at my parents' house. I felt exhilarated and a little naughty. This was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I was to become someone new, someone who enjoyed smoking weed from time to time. I wanted to start wearing bracelets. I wanted to grow my hair out. I fantasized about blowing weed smoke into a young woman's eager mouth. That's hot, I thought. That'll be hot when that happens, I thought. This is definitely the right move, I thought. You bet your ass I slept with angels that night, baby. The next morning, my eyes popped open and my mind clicked to life. My head was filled with the usual 17-year-old business. Sex, boners, death. I jumped off the bed with purpose. I knew what I had to do. I had to get me some of that good green stuff. I picked up another friend, my best friend of 5 years, before school. I drove him every day. I asked him about the weed and invited him to me and my new friend's night of debauchery. He said he knew someone who could supply the goods. Easy as that. I asked him how much it would be. He said he didn't know. I asked him if $20 would be good enough. He repeated that he didn't know. I said, I know you said you didn't know, but I was just wondering if you had any idea of a ballpark estimate. He said no. We rode the rest of the way in silence. From here on out, to avoid confusion, I will refer to my new friend as new and to my best friend as best. Got it? Cool? Cool. $20 ended up being good enough. I was given a clump of what looked like dehydrated broccoli. I asked if this was that good shit. I was assured it was. It was all coming together now. No hang-ups, no complications. I could feel the excitement sparkling in the tips of my fingers and the tips of my toes. On the night following our last day of junior year, my friends and I got in a New's car. We drove to a pizza place to get a pizza, something to munch on for when we were overcome with the eventual munchies. The pizza place was closed. We were pissed, but we wouldn't let this ruin our night. We went to a gas station and bought gummies instead. Bess started eating the gummies as soon as we got back to New's car. I told Bess to stop. I told Bess those were for later, for when we were fucking dumb stoned. Bess asked why it mattered. Bess said we had plenty. Bess said we'd have some for later if he had some now. I called him a fucking coward. We rode the rest of the way in silence. I decided that parking New's car anywhere near my parents' house would be a bad idea. The last thing I wanted was for my parents to see me fucking dumb stoned.
Guess what, Mom and Dad? Your baby boy's off the leash now. Your boy's up. Your boy's up. I bet you regret conceiving me. I bet you regret carrying me to term, huh, Mom, you f***ing cowards.
What I probably would have said to my parents if they had caught me smoking marijuana. So yeah, I suggested another spot where we could park. It was in the driveway of another house, one in the same neighborhood as my own, but far enough away from my parents to avoid the hypothetical situation I just played out. This other house was foreclosed and unoccupied. I also knew the kid that lived in the house one over. It was the perfect spot. Nothing could possibly go wrong. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. New pulled into the driveway and put his car in park. I pulled the baggie of weed out from my back pocket. We realized pretty quickly we had no apparatus to smoke it with. New asked if we could just eat it. I wanted to call him a fool, but I stopped myself. I instead just said no. We once again neared defeat. But instead, we pushed onward, putting our heads together to figure out a way to put smoke into our lungs. Bess grabbed an empty plastic water bottle sitting in the cup holder. New opened the glove box and pulled out a mini flashlight. Bess took a pin and poked a hole into the side of the water bottle. New dismantled the mini flashlight, finding a cone-shaped piece in its inner workings. I sat in the back and cheered them on. We then inserted the cone piece into the hole in the water bottle before pinching a bit of weed out from my baggie and packing it into the cone piece. We had ourselves a bong. God was on our side that night. Of that, I was sure. It was about 10 at night when we left New's car and headed for the woods. We approached a wooden set of steps, one that led to a path in the forest. We got to the last couple steps and we figured that was as good a spot as any. We all sat down together on the same step. Me on the left, New in the middle, and Best on the right. New held the bong in his lap. He wrapped his lips around the rim of the water bottle and flicked his lighter. I literally could not stop giggling. I'm telling you, I could not fucking stop. If someone had put a gun to my head and said they would kill me unless I stopped giggling, I would have been a dead man. There would have been a fucking smoking, gory hole in the side of my head and the expression one has while giggling frozen on my cold, dead face. So anyway, New took a rip from our bong and then handed the bong to Best. My palms started getting sweaty with anticipation. Best then ripped as New exhaled a magnificent cloud of weed smoke that danced through the air. It almost brought tears to my eyes. And then, it was my turn. I was nervous, but I didn't want to show it. I steadied my shaky, sweaty hands as Best passed the bong to me. He exhaled, creating a cloud even more breathtaking than the last. I knew I either had to take the gnarliest rip for the bong yet, or never fucking show my face ever again. I wrapped my lips around the rim of the water bottle. I flicked the lighter. I brought the flame towards the already half-scorched weed and the cone piece from the flashlight from New's glove box. And then I ripped. I ripped so hard my lungs almost burst. Smoke escaped from my gaping mouth as I doubled over, coughing my damn life away. My eyes felt like they were going to pop out of my head as tears streamed down my cheeks. And, for a reason I couldn't quite grasp, I found all this pain to be downright hilarious. My giggling turned into rumbling laughter as I handed the bong back to New. He ripped again, and then Best ripped, and then I ripped, and then New ripped, and then Best ripped, and then I ripped, and then Best ripped, and then New said that he was skipped, and so he ripped for 2 times in a row, and then we couldn't remember who was up after that, and so New ripped for a 3rd time, and then I ripped, and then New ripped, and then Best said that we forgot about him, and then I couldn't remember where I was. I was staring off into the darkened forest in front of my face, my mind a thoughtless void. Best and New stood up and started playfully tackling each other. It looked like they were miles away. The wind started to sound like voices. The world around me started to look 2-dimensional. I stood up from the step. It felt like I was looking through someone else's eyes. It felt like I was about to fall into the sky. I realized I might have overdone it. I was officially done giggling.
Guys, are you, you guys, do you want, my tongue is, I think we should go back to the car now, I said
to my friends after foolishly and endlessly ripping on a makeshift bong. My grasp on reality deteriorated further as New Best and I stumbled up the wooden staircase. The staircase seemed to stretch on for forever. Step after step after step, my legs grew weaker and weaker and weaker, the world around me spinning faster and faster. It seemed like we would never reach New's car. And then we were suddenly outside of New's car, the past 5 minutes completely missing from my mind. I begged for New to unlock it. New ruffled through his pant pockets looking for his keys. He said he must have misplaced them. He asked if one of us could call them for him. I said I would, but I couldn't find my phone. It took us 5 minutes to realize that New was already holding his keys and I was already holding my phone. He unlocked the car and we all jumped inside, New in the driver's seat, Bess in the passengers, and me in the back. I grabbed a handful of gummies and shoved them into my mouth, hoping their sugary comfort could provide me with some sort of escape from this nightmare. Instead, I began wondering what sugar tasted like. What is sweetness? What is taste? How does that work? Why am I doing this? What is anything? What in the is what? All these basic introductory philosophical questions were exploding in my mind, each one more profoundly terrifying than the last. It felt like the chaos swirling around in my brain would bring it to its breaking point. I could feel insanity closing in. I decided to get out of my head and focus instead on my friends. Best was staring at himself in the rearview mirror. He said he could see the ghost of his father in his reflection. I asked him what the hell that meant. He gave me no answers. New was studying a multicolored gummy worm that sat in the palm of his hand. He said, what if what he sees is red is what I see is blue? He said there would be no way of knowing for sure. I told him that what he was saying was ridiculous and cliche and that he was embarrassing himself. Bess turned to me and told me he had something to show me. I asked what. He then stuck his hand under his ass, farted on it, and then slapped me across the face with his fart hand. He asked me how I felt about that. I told him I didn't feel very good about it. I leaned back in my seat, closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and then opened my eyes. Suddenly, New and Best had their shirts off and wrapped around their heads. They were sitting in complete silence. I looked at the clock. We had been in the car for 2.5 hours. Some headlights flashed through the window behind me. I ducked down so quickly I almost broke my f***ing spine. I pressed my head against the car seat as my beady, bloodshot eyes shifted around frantically. I was convinced we were caught. I asked my friends where the light was coming from. Best and New, drool dripping from their gaping mouths, turned around to face the light. I kept my eyes forward, looking at the light cascading over my friends' dumb, brain-dead faces. It looked like the gleaming face of God was looking down and casting judgment on two of his creations, ones that he now deemed horrible, embarrassing mistakes, and they stared back at their magnificent creator with stoned indifference and boredom. New said the headlights were coming from the neighbors across the street. He said that they had exited their house and entered their car. I asked what they were doing now. New said they weren't doing anything. They were just sitting there in their car with their headlights shining down upon us. They knew what we had done, and they were going to do something about it. My heart was pounding, its rhythm feeling strange, almost alien in my chest. I was having a heart attack. Holy shit, I was having a heart attack. This is it for me, I thought. My heart was going to burst in my chest in the backseat of my new friend's car, parked in front of a foreclosed house a couple streets away from my home, where both of my parents slept, both completely unaware that their criminal son was going into cardiac arrest, breathing his last erratic breaths. How strange for this to be the end, I thought. What awaits me on the other side, I wondered. I was certain God would look down on me the same way I imagined him looking down on my two delinquent friends. I was to be damned. I was to burn, slowly, an agonizing eternity of fire and suffering. I could almost see it in front of my face, coming closer and closer. And then the neighbor's car pulled out of the driveway and drove down the street and out of the neighborhood. My heart rate slowed as I started to get a hold of myself. I had survived. I had escaped Lucifer's grasp once again. I have eluded you, demon, I said, my lips feeling like rubber as the words passed through them. What? New asked, looking insane as he looked at me as if I was insane. Nothing, never mind, I said. The relief continued to wash over me as I felt the concrete of my mind slowly start to melt away, like someone had peeled back my face and ran a warm faucet into my skull. Hey, this isn't so bad, I thought. This isn't so scary. It's just silly. It was just so damn silly. I could feel my face freeze into a dumb grin as chuckles escaped through my flared nostrils and tightened lips. My mind continued to slip away, further away, into the peacefulness of absolute nothingness. So comfortable, there in the blankness. New clicked open the driver's side door. My mind shot back together with sharp red panic. What the hell are you doing? I hush yelled, realizing there were still half-chewed gummies in the pockets of my cheeks. I gotta take a big boy piss, New said, the word piss coming out of his mouth like a deflating snake. I knew we'd be caught if any one of us left the safety of that motor vehicle, but I was too late to stop New as he clumsily unpantsed his flopping wiener and stumbled out the driver's side door. Be quiet and hurry up, I hush yelled after New, the half-chewed gummies now flying out of my mouth and hitting Best on the back of his head. Best paid no mind as he stared at New with laser-focused intensity.
Do you need me to go grab him?
He asked, his voice deep and gravelly.
I'll go take him out if he gets too noisy. Just tell me and I'll do it.
He continued, his eyes sharp and steely, his back straight as an arrow, his arms up, ready for action. As Best described to be the fastest, most efficient way to break a man's arm, I wondered if he was some sort of sleeper agent whose combat chip was activated by the smoking of the marijuana. I told him to hold tight. Looking over to check on New, I noticed him inexplicably trying to climb inside an evergreen shrub in front of the foreclosed house. He howled like a banshee as the branches scratched against his shirtless torso. Best attempted to spring into action, but I slapped my hand on his chest and pushed him down before he could. I watched with absolute horror as the lights flicked on inside the house to the left of the foreclosed one. We had been made. Get the back in the car. You have fucked all of us with your foolish actions, you knuckle-headed motherfucker, I said to New, my voice slow and serious as I watched our doom approach in the form of a very crotchety old lady exiting the house left to the foreclosed one. What the hell's going on out here? She asked, her shrieking voice shooting through the air and whip-cracking my eardrums. New stayed put, frozen in place, hoping the old lady's predatory senses were dependent on motion, but her obvious echolocation capabilities led her cataract-ridden eyes directly to his limp, shirtless body draped across an evergreen shrub. Hey, you lying over there, she shrieked. What are you doing? I'm going to call the cops. I got your plate numbers. New, realizing he had been found, decided best to ease the tension of the situation by explaining himself to the old lady. He stayed lying on his back with his eyes locked on the starry night sky, taking special care to make sure every single word out of his mouth was normal and sober sounding. I am out here lying in this lawn and appreciating the starry night sky. Please do not contact the police. I will be on my way and out of your hair as soon as I regain control of my being. The insanity that had just exited New's mouth might as well have been the sound of the prison guard slamming the cell door shut on all three of us. Best turned toward me and asked me how much loyalty I had for New. He said we could dart, leaving New to fend for himself. He said the old lady only had the plate numbers for New's car. He said the two of us were still in the clear. He said there was no way the old lady's feeble geriatric ass could possibly catch us if we ran for it. It was New that got us caught anyway. Why should we all fall for one knuckle-headed motherfucker's actions? I was having a crisis of conscience as I pondered Best's proposition. It was then, in that moment, that I decided what kind of man I was going to be. Let's get the out of here, I said to Best. But just before Best and I had a chance to get the out of there, the old lady turned toward her house and yelled out a name. I can't remember exactly what name it was, but whatever it was the single most aggressively masculine name I had ever heard. And out from the house came the single most aggressively masculine man I had ever seen. It was either this old lady's son or grandson, or maybe even a much younger lover. Whatever his relation to the old lady, one thing was for sure. He was ready to BSA in the USA. That's right. He was ready to beat some ass in the United States of America, which was where we were in that moment. The man stood silent, clenching his fists in his jaw. I could see the violent fantasies playing out behind his eyes as he stared daggers at New's dumbass. This man was an Olympic sprinter for all I knew, so running for it was taken off the table. I looked over at Best to see he had come to the same conclusion. This left me with only one option, something I had been avoiding my entire life. I actually had to take action and solve the problem. Hey, hold up, wait a minute. Hey, wait a minute, hold up, I said as I stumbled out of New's car and approached the old lady and the manly man, trying with all my power to achieve what New was incapable of. I was going to convince these people that I was in my right mind. I focused on every step I took, making sure they were each smooth and sober-like as I approached the old lady, who took a couple steps back as the manly man took a couple steps forward. They looked me up and down like a couple lions sizing up a fucking dumb stone gazelle. At any moment they could pounce, at any moment they could attack, but I kept my cool as I pulled out my secret weapon. We know Gabe, I said, knowing the tremendous impact this revelation would make. Gabe was the boy that lived in the house to the right of the foreclosed one. Remember when I said I knew the kid that lived in the house next to the foreclosed one? Remember when I said that? I said it a little bit ago. Well, anyway, his name was Gabe, and he lived in the house to the right of the foreclosed one. And Gabe was a total sweetheart, and everyone knew it, and everyone loved him. Old and young, people of every race, creed, religion, and background loved this kid. They wanted to chill with this kid, and he was handsome and smart, and I think I might have loved him. in a romantic way. I wasn't sure, and I was very confused by it. I still am. I still am confused by it to this day. I have dreams, intimate dreams, still to this day. But anyway, I knew that just by mentioning his name to the old lady and her son slash grandson slash lover would completely turn the situation around. And for once in my life, I was right. Oh, Gabriel! We love Gabriel! The old lady said to me. She waddled up to me and placed her hands on my shoulder. She leaned in close, the smell of incense and butterscotch on her, overpowering any lingering scent of weed on me. Do you know he saved my life once? I told the old lady that I didn't know that. I mean, why the f*** would I? I had never seen this lady before in my entire life. I asked her what had happened. Well, as you get older, you make some silly mistakes, she said. One afternoon, I forgot to lay out towels while I bathed. I lay out towels because I am a very active bather. There will be spilling. There will be splashing. The ground will get wet. But in my old age, I had forgotten to set out some towels to soak up that wetness. So when I exited the tub, I slipped and fell right out the second-story window. What? I asked. I enjoy a nice breeze when I bathe, so I usually open a window, she said. So there I was, falling out the window, and guess where I landed? Right in the jacuzzi. Yeah, we have a jacuzzi out back, the manly man behind her said. Her falling into it from the second-story window was partially my fault. If the protective tarp was still on top, she would have experienced a trampoline-like effect that would have bounced her safely into the soft grass. But that day happened to be the day I was taking the exam to get my GED. I was nervous, so I took a dip in the hot tub to help calm my nerves. That's when I realized I was actually running late for my exam. Damn daylight savings. So I rushed out of there without retopping the jacuzzi. I ended up taking the exam in dripping wet swim shorts. Can you believe that? I let the manly man know how amused I was by his story, since you rarely see people taking exams in swim shorts, let alone dripping wet swim shorts. I produced a few friendly chuckles to further express my amusement. The manly man seemed pleased. So I was drowning, right? The old lady continued, her shaking hand still gripping my shoulders. After falling from that second-story bathroom window and falling into the untopped jacuzzi, I was drowning. That's when sweet, beautiful Gabe, who was over watering his mother's flowers, saw me and came rushing over. He pulled me out of that jacuzzi and breathed life right back into me. I acknowledged how amazing Gabe was and let this old lady know how happy I was that she was alive, even though I really couldn't give a shit about her. Then I looked over my shoulder to check on my two friends. Best was still in the car, ripping apart gummy worms as he snarled at New. New was still in the bush, chewing on a mouthful of grass like a nervous little goat boy. I turned back to the old lady. So what are you boys going to do with Gabriel? She asked me. Charity work, I blurted out. Charity work in the morning. Oh, how nice, the old lady said. What kind of charity work are you? We're feeding homeless dogs, I said, and re-winging de-winged birds. I wondered if I was having a stroke as I heard these words exit my mouth. The old lady wondered the same. She dropped her hands from my shoulders. You're doing what? To what kind of birds? We're putting prosthetic wings on amputee birds, I said. Birds that have lost their wings in horrible wing-destroying accidents. What? Wing-destroying accidents? The old lady asked. I explained to the old lady that wing-destroying accidents are accidents where the wings are destroyed. I told her that these happen all the time. I accidentally ran over a bird with a lawnmower once, the manly man said. That bird would need more than a re-winging, though. It'd need a re-heading. The manly man and I shared in a chuckle before I let him know that that's actually nothing to joke about. I know, you're right, he said, just trying to lighten the mood. I told the manly man that I appreciated that, but from that point forward, he should be more careful of his company before making such controversial jokes. He agreed. It was a very productive interaction. I then informed the two of them that de-winged birds used to be fed to homeless dogs before Gabe came in and suggested something beneficial be done for both sets of unlucky animals. Much like you falling from that window and into that jacuzzi, these birds have fallen, I said to the old lady. And much like you, Gabe picked them back up and put them where they were meant to be. After taking the old lady's story and my wingless bird story and tying them together in what I thought was a really poignant and affecting way, I knew we were in the clear. I knew I had hit it out of the fucking park. I knew I had just saved me and my two jackass friends. But wait, the old lady said. If you're here to do charity work for Gabriel, then why aren't you at his house? Why are you parked in front of this foreclosed one? And why is that one over there shirtless inside of that shrub? I thought. That's a good point, I thought. She really just wrecked my whole story by discovering that plot hole, I thought. Time to fill it, I decided. Us three being charity givers, we sometimes find ourselves overflowing with love, overflowing with empathy, with compassion, even for things that aren't alive, I said to the old lady. Like this rock at my feet. I feel a strong connection to it. I want to name it. I want to dress it up. I want to draw a little face on it, cradle it, raise it as my own little rock son. We feel the same for this house. We know it's foreclosed. We know it's unprotected, vulnerable, and seemingly unloved. So we wanted to check on it to show it that there was still good out there. That's when we saw what we thought was a suspicious individual lurking outside of it. We thought someone was trying to burglarize it or, God forbid, smoke drugs inside of it, which, for the record, me and my friends have never and will never do. Just for the record. So anyway, I told my friend, the shirtless one chewing on grass over there, I told him to go out and try to catch this potential burglar or potential, God forbid, drug user. But then it just turned out to be a shrub. The old lady wasn't buying it. You thought a shrub was a drug addict? Yeah, did you just say you wanted to raise a rock as your son? The old lady's son / grandson / lover added. I told them that yes, I thought the bush was a drug addict, and although I wasn't positive in that moment, that rock thing sounded like some stupid, embarrassing bullshit I probably said. All right, well, here's the thing, the old lady said to me. I'm not a perfect person. When I see people, I make snap judgments. It's not something I like about myself, and I am working on it, but it's still a part of me. So, when I see 3 boys out in the middle of the night, one shirtless inside of a bush chewing on a mouthful of grass, and another one telling me he wants to parent a rock, I assume they're high on drugs and up to no good. I explained to the old lady how offended I was by her comments and how I had just spent 5 minutes rambling on about how that wasn't the case, even though it definitely was the case, and the old lady had hit the nail right on the f***ing head. I know, I'm sorry, the old lady said to me. Like I said, I'm working on it. Still, I would just feel a lot better if I were to see you boys go up to Gabriel's house and be welcomed inside. It would just make me feel a bit better and help me sleep tonight. But if you go up to Gabriel's house and you aren't welcomed inside, remember,
I got your plate numbers.
The old lady looked at me as if she had the power to destroy all that I held dear. The manly man behind her positioned himself like an Olympic sprinter at a starting line, waiting for the gun to blow. After informing the old lady that her personal biases were not a good look and that she was on the wrong side of history, I gathered my friends, best from the car, new from the bush, and together we approached Gabe's house. I could feel the old lady in the manly man's eyes on the back of my head as I rang the doorbell. I prayed to God Gabe would be the one to answer, but instead, Gabe's skinny little 14-year-old brother Damien was the one that opened the front door. God had forsaken me once again. Hello? Damien said to us. New knelt down in front of the boy. Hey there, young man, he said. Is your mom or your daddy home? Damien took a step back. Who are you guys? New leaned in closer and pinched Damien's cheek. Oh, we're just a couple of friendly dudes, he said. Do you like gummy worms? I grabbed New and pulled him back. I told him to stop. I told him he was being really weird. I told him he was about to get the police called on us for a completely different reason. I turned to Damien. Damien, I said, is your brother home? We would very much like to come in and talk to him. Damien told us Gabe wasn't home. He told us no one was home besides himself. He was home alone. As those words exited Damien's mouth and hit my ears, a big boy piss ran down my leg. I looked over to Best and sized him up, figuring if push came to shove, my survival depended not on my ability to outrun the manly man behind us, but on my ability to outrun my best friend of 5 years. Best leaned in towards Damien.
Listen here, you little piece of
He hate whispered to the child in front of us.
You let us to in right now. I am not going to jail. I swear to God if you...
I grabbed Best and pulled him back. I reminded him that that's not how we get what we want. He took a deep breath and calmed down as I considered stomping on his ankles right then to give me the upper hand. That's when I realized crippling my best friend of 5 years wasn't going to be necessary, because we wouldn't have to run for it, because the old lady wasn't going to call the police, because we were about to be welcomed inside of Gabe's house, because I had another secret weapon, this one stuffed into my back pocket. I turned toward Damien and smiled. We have weed, I whispered to him. Just as I expected, the green stuff convinced Damien to give us the green light. We pushed our way into the kid's home, slammed the door shut behind us, locked it, deadbolted it, and then barricaded it with a wooden chair, 2 end tables, and several colorful throw pillows. After sufficiently old lady and manly man proofing the front door, New Best and I all simultaneously collapsed onto the living room floor, the walls around us covered in Gabe's framed achievements and Damien's thumbtacked participation certificates. So, the obviously lesser son said to us 3 collapsed losers, "Are we going to smoke this kush, or I got rolling papers in my room upstairs." My friends and I were safe and sobering up. The nightmare was finally over. Why in the hell would we possibly want to throw ourselves back into the chaos of being dumb stoned? Hell yes, let's rip, we all simultaneously said to Damien, none of us wanting to look like a punk ass in front of that 14-year-old. Keep in mind, Damien was about to enter high school as a freshman, and we weren't about to let word get out amongst the underclassmen that we were anything less than a trio of badass motherfuckers. I mean, that was going to be our senior year. That was going to be our year, baby. After declaring our wish to rip, Damien grabbed his rolling papers and directed us outside to sit in a circle on his back patio. Watching that 14-year-old freckled-faced child expertly roll a joint made me realize we had officially failed our youth. He pulled out a Pink Floyd lighter, lit the tip of the J, took a big old fat hit, and then handed it to the person sitting next to him. The J completed 2 full circles, 720 degrees of fat hitting, before anyone said anything. What if when we die, our individual consciences come together to form a super consciousness? New asked us. Right when I was about to backhand slap this stupid from New, Damien chimed in. "Yeah, I don't think so, man," he said to New. I think when you die, you die. It's just darkness. It's just nothingness. It's like the end of a movie. It just fades to black. It's over. I started to imagine what the end credits would look like after my life faded to black. Produced by mom and dad, directed by self-doubt and self-pity, written by a spiteful god, catered by Domino's Pizza. Maybe there would be an end credits scene teasing my reincarnation, and then Best shot up and grabbed my arm. "I need to use the restroom," Best announced to the group as he pulled me to my feet. I asked Best why he was grabbing my arm and pulling me to my feet. He said I had to accompany him to the restroom. I asked why. You know how some people can't go pee if other people are watching?" He said. "I'm like the opposite of that. I need someone to watch me pee or I can't go. It's like a performance for me. I mean, if no one hears or sees you pee, did you even really pee?" New told Best that Best would be seeing himself urinate, therefore another person's presence would be unnecessary. Best told New to shut his stupid mouth. He then dragged me into the house and into the nearest restroom. After closing and locking the door, Best told me it was time for a little show and tell. "First, I have to show you something," he said, "and then I have to tell you something." I asked Best what he had to show me. Best positioned himself about 6 feet from the toilet, pulled his wiener from his jeans, and began urinating, arcing his stream through the air and directly into the bowl. "Pretty cool, right?" he asked me. "Piss Tricks 2012. I agreed it was pretty cool before asking what he had to tell me. Best shook himself dry and flushed the toilet. "It's about Damien," he said. "He didn't just kill our buzz out there.
He killed his entire family."
Probably not as shocked by that wild allegation as I should have been, I asked Best how he had come to that conclusion. 3 reasons, he said to me. 1, that infant child is suspiciously home alone. 2, he had an absolutely bone-chilling response to that acidite superconsciousness nonsense. And 3, the trees speak of murder. I asked him to elaborate on that last one. "The wind blowing through the trees told me Damien killed his family," he said to me. "The woods hold our secrets, and you can hear them if you're tuned to the right frequency." I began wondering if the marijuana had not only activated a combat chip in Best's brain, but also unearthed some sort of dormant mental illness. Not wanting to upset a potentially insane sleeper soldier, I played along. "All right," I said to him, "what should we do next?" Best said the police probably wouldn't believe in the secrets the tree spoke to him without a full confession from Damien. I agreed that they probably wouldn't. I told Best that we should go back out to the patio so Damien wouldn't get suspicious. Best nodded his head and crammed his wiener back into his jeans before betting me $50 that Damien had already chopped off New's head on that back patio. I told Best I would make that bet, but I knew neither of us were nor had ever been wealthy enough to throw around $50 whole like that. We rejoined Damien and New on the back patio. Damien held a small pocket-sized notebook open to a page near the middle. New's head was unsevered, but from his eyes fell tears. Best dropped down and embraced New, pulling him away from Damien and his notebook. "Why is he crying?" he snarled at Damien. "What did you do to him?" Damien told us he didn't do anything. He was just reading New some of his poetry.
"It's so beautiful."
New sobbed into Best's armpit. "Poetry?" I asked Damien. "What kind of poetry?" Damien informed us that he writes poetry, and the poem he was reading to New was about his dead pet frog. The poem was entitled, "The Day Croaky Croaked." "Let me see that," Best said, shoving New to the ground and snatching the notebook from Damien. After flipping the notebook to an empty page, Best asked Damien for a pen. "Of course," Damien said, reaching into his pocket, pulling out a pen and clicking it. "I always keep one with me, just in case inspiration hits." Best snatched the pen from Damien. "Oh yeah? What sort of inspiration hits when your innocent family has their backs turned?" "I don't know what that means," Damien said the Best. "Oh, I think you know exactly what that means," Best said, using Damien's pen to scribble on the empty page in Damien's notebook. "Do you know what a Rorschach test is?" Damien said yes. "Well, then tell me what you see when you look at this," Best said, flipping the notebook around, showing the drawing he drew on the blank page. The drawing Best drew on the blank page was of a stick figure using a chainsaw to chainsaw 3 other stick figures. The stick figure holding the chainsaw was labeled Damien, and the 3 stick figures on the receiving end of the chainsaw were labeled Damien's family. "What do you see?" Best asked Damien. That looks like me chainsaw murdering my family," Damien said to Best. "Huh," Best said, tossing the notebook and the pen into Damien's lap. "Funny you would see that." I signaled at Best to ease up a bit as I sat down next to Damien. "So Damien," I said, "when will your brother and parents be returning?" Damien told me not to worry about them. Damien said they wouldn't be home for a long, long time. Damien said we had plenty of time for fun. Best threw his head back and cackled at the sky. Damien asked him what was so funny. "Oh, nothing," Best said. "I was just thinking of killing my family, but I haven't done it yet. As a matter of fact, I don't know a single person who has killed their family. Do you, Damien? Do you know anyone who has killed their entire family?" Damien said no, he didn't know anyone that had killed their entire family. Best shot to his feet and stood over Damien. "Cut this shit," he said, pretending to shit in his own hand and then pretending to cut the pretend shit with a pair of pretend scissors. "We know what you did." What did I do?" Damien asked. "Don't be stupid," Best said, pretending to not be able to read a pretend book. And then wagging his finger no. "We know you killed your family." At that moment, I took a mental note to later inform Best that equating illiteracy with stupidity is completely inaccurate and honestly pretty offensive. Damien stared at Best for a moment before smiling and chuckling nervously. "Yeah, dude, sure," he said to Best. Yeah, totally killed my family. Yeah, killed them right before you got here." With my mind warped by weed and tainted by Best's paranoid insanity, I no longer possessed the capability to pick up on sarcasm. I took what Damien said completely at face value. Best and I were now on the same page. "He did it! He admitted it!" Best said, grabbing both of Damien's hands. "Which one did it?" "What?" Damien asked. "What are you doing? What are you talking about?" "Which one did it?" Best repeated. "Which hand held the weapon used to commit this heinous crime?" "He used his right hand the most when rolling that J," I told Best. "That's probably his dominant hand. That's probably the one that held the weapon used to commit this heinous crime." Best grabbed Damien's right arm with both hands, knelt down, and started banging the back of Damien's elbow into the top of his knee. "Let me go," Damien said. "What are you doing?" "I am breaking your arm," Best said. "No, you're not," Damien said. "I am trying to break your arm," Best said before turning toward me. He's too strong. His arm won't break." I jumped up and grabbed Damien's other arm. "We gotta lock him up," I said. "We gotta lock him up and throw away the key." What is happening?" New asked, having been passed out asleep for the last 5 minutes. Speaking loudly to drown out the sound of Damien's cries for help, I caught New up on all he had missed while snoozing.
"Are you serious? Murder? Is this really happening right now?"
As Best and I dragged Damien into his house and into his kitchen, all New could do was wail hysterically and ask how.
"How could someone who writes so beautifully do something so ugly?"
I told New that the real question was how could he have done this to his brother? All sweet Gabe wanted to do was put wingless birds back into the sky, I said, confusing my own fiction with fact. We tossed Damien's thrashing body into a kitchen pantry and slammed the door shut. I continued to hold the door as Best gathered a couple chairs, tables, and pillows to barricade the door with. New stood motionless behind me, being a useless, blubbering mess, as Best dragged a very tasteful wicker chair in from the living room. You gotta call the police, Best said to New. Okay, New said, pulling out his phone and dialing 911. As the phone rang, New went over to the kitchen sink and drank water straight from the faucet, replenishing the fluids he lost from all of his sobbing. An emergency responder answered the call and asked the caller what emergency they were responding to. Murder! New screamed into the phone. Triple murder! Please remain calm, ma'am, the presumptuous emergency responder said to New before asking New where this murder, triple murder took place. New grabbed a stack of mail that sat on the kitchen counter. He read the address written on the top piece of mail, a collection of coupons from Domino's Pizza. After hanging up on the emergency responder, New pocketed the coupons for later use. 5 minutes, New said to us. They'll be here in 5 minutes. You hear that, jackass? Bess said to Damien through the now completely barricaded kitchen door. Damien told us he was countering our 911 call with a 911 call of his own. We'll see who the coppers believe when I show them the little picture you drew of you killing your family, Bess said, holding up Damien's notebook. I pulled Bess aside and said he drew that, not Damien. Bess said he knew that, but the lawmen wouldn't. Hold on a sec, New said, running up and snatching the notebook from Bess. You can't give this to the cops. These poems are too beautiful to give away. I asked New how he could possibly enjoy something created by such a maniac. New told me it was important to separate the art from the artist. I told New that he needed to recalibrate his moral compass and pay better attention to the kinds of people he was supporting. Bess took a load off on the very tasteful wicker chair, helping barricade the kitchen pantry door. How long did you say until they get here again? Bess asked New. New said 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes, Bess said. Now we just play the waiting game. Now we just play the wait a minute. You called the police. The police are coming here. We're here. And we're stoned and have pot on us, meaning the police will find us here, stoned, and with pot. The fog quickly cleared as reality punched all of us directly in the nuts.
Oh no!
I squealed.
We gotta get the hell out of here.
Yes, Bess said, jumping up from the wicker chair, kicking open the bathroom door and unzipping his jeans. But first I have to show you. I told Bess that there was no time for Piss Tricks 2012. Bess zipped himself back up. You're right, I'm sorry, I don't know what I was thinking, he said, before turning to look at New, who was shoving the rest of our pot into his mouth. What the hell are you doing? New said, washing the pot down with a long slurp from the faucet. After calling New an unbelievable fool who now owed me $20 worth of weed, or something of equal or greater value, I asked if he was okay to drive, knowing he wasn't even okay to walk. Was Picasso okay to paint? New asked me as he picked at a pot seed stuck in between his teeth. What? I asked New as Bess walked past us and analyzed the barricade in front of the front door. Bess said it would take 6 minutes to completely disassemble the barricade, which was 1 minute more than the 5 minutes we had. We got to go through the back door and around to the front, he told us. Damien yelled a couple insults through the pantry door, questioning our intelligence and our masculinity, as Bess led our escape through the back door and onto the back patio. How about you get murderer? Bess yelled back at Damien as we leapt off the patio and into the backyard. As soon as our feet hit the grass, a giant wind blew in from the trees and knocked all three of us on our asses. New and I struggled back to our feet as Bess shot up, standing frozen with his eyes locked on the force in front of us. I asked Bess if he saw something. He said no. He said he heard something. A voice, Bess said. No, not just a voice. A cry. A cry for help. I asked, from whom did this cry for help come? Bess gasped. Gabe, he said. It was Gabe. Gabe is alive. His brother didn't kill him. His brother buried him. Alive. Gabe is alive, but buried. New swung his head back toward the house. You brilliant, diabolical bastard, he screamed at Damien. Did you win my heart just to break it? I demanded that Bess tell me from where this cry for help came. After a moment of searching, Bess pointed to a grassless plot in the yard a few feet in front of us. I launched myself toward the plot and started digging, knowing I would dig to the very core of the planet to save beautiful, beautiful Gabe. Hold on, Gabe, I yelled at the ground. I'm saving you. You just gotta hold on.
Don't you dare give up on me now.
Bess joined me, both of us frantically grabbing handfuls of dirt and tossing them over our shoulders as New held back and watered the yard with his tears. We dug deeper and deeper as the wind picked up, blowing harder and harder, coming from every direction, whipping us about and stealing the breath from our lungs. After approximately 4 minutes and 30 seconds of frenzied digging, we finally uncovered something. Was it a living boy buried by a jealous brother? No, it was a dead frog buried by a mournful poet.
Oh my god,
News squeaked.
it's Croaky.
I realized Croaky's grave was to become our own as another voice, one we all heard, came booming through a megaphone from the other side of Gabe's house. I can't remember exactly what the cop said, but this is what it sounded like to me.
Attention! This is the police! Come out with your hands up! You are about to be policed! Your entire life is about to be ruined! Your entire future is about to be destroyed! All of your worst fears are coming true! You are alone and will die alone! We are agents of Satan, and we are here to collect 3 souls.
We sat in horrified silence as the police threatened our livelihoods and freedoms. At a loss for what to do next, I asked my friends if they had any ideas. I got an idea, New said, rubbing his red puffy eyes. We gotta get to the car. New ran around the side of the house, raced past the cops, and charged toward his car. Best and I, not being knuckleheaded motherfuckers, did not follow his lead.
The police yelled at New to stop. I can't, New said. I don't know how.
The police showed him how by tackling him into the shrub in front of the foreclosed house. Through the banshee-like howling noises coming from New's ongoing arrest, I heard something else. A name. The single most aggressively masculine name I had ever heard. My eyes shot over to the house to the left of the foreclosed one, where I saw the old lady having her personal biases reaffirmed as she pointed down at us from the second-story bathroom window. The manly man joined her at the window. He looked down at Best and I in Gabe's backyard, at the cops arresting New in the shrub in front of the foreclosed house, and then back at me and Best, before throwing himself out of that second-story window. The manly man's falling body hit the tarp on top of the jacuzzi, which created a trampoline-like effect, bouncing him safely into the soft grass, where he hit the ground running, sprinting toward Best and I in full tackle mode. I turned to Best, ready to stomp his ankles, only to see my best friend of 5 years already fleeing toward the wooden staircase that leads into the woods.
See you in hell, soldier!
Best yelled back at me right before being hit with intense stomach cramps from all the gummies he ate, making him double over and tumble down the wooden staircase, a different expletive exploding from his mouth for every unforgiving step his body hit. Hoping my escape would be more successful, I started toward the wooden staircase as the manly man quickly closed in behind me.
Yeah, I'm not actually sorry about that bird joke from earlier.
The manly man snarled before tripping over Croaky's open grave and face planting in Gabe's backyard. Now feeling close to home free, I flew down the staircase. I jumped over Best's mangled body laying on the last couple steps and landed with a crunch on top of the makeshift bong we had left at the bottom of those stairs all those hours ago, back before the panic, back before the lies, the murders, and the arrests. I kicked away the bong and continued running into the woods, into the trees, into those old secret holders. Best screamed after me. He called me a fucking coward. After finding a nice dry spot in the forest that I could call my home for the next few hours, I looked ahead to the remaining days of summer 2012. I wondered how I was going to spend them now that I had no friends. Well, I can check getting high off my list, I said to myself. Now I guess it's time to lose that virginity.